Hello and welcome, this is Lewis Francis from Uniquely talking to you today about the iOS 14 update and how that's going to have a big impact on e-commerce. Today you're going to be able to walk away from this video with 3 actionable tips and tricks to actually action and then avoid a surprise hit from iOS 14. iOS 14 is an update from Apple which allows users to actually allow and deny tracking from certain apps. The most meaningful apps these will have an impact on is things like Facebook and Instagram, where every user will have an option to either track or decide not to track their data. The big thing is, if users actually decide not to track, and a recent survey I did proved that 75% of people would choose do not track, that actually means that Facebook will actually reduce the amount of data they actually collect. That then means that all your advertising on Facebook and Instagram will dramatically reduce in terms of the accuracy of targeting, and also that will then return on investment will then decrease, the return on ad spend will then reduce because the data is less accurate, you can't target so accurately, and therefore the increased ad costs will just incur based on that. This video today will actually cover what the iOS 14 update looks like, how that affects advertising directly, why e-commerce managers just like yourselves should be worried, and 3 things you can do to minimize the impact and really avoid any sort of slaps in the face later down the line and any hits from the iOS 14 update. Plus, I'll also show you an effective way you can get better traffic which is more reliable and also a much better source of more valuable traffic and leads and generation of new business and sales on e-commerce. So please subscribe, like and follow. You're in for the ride. Let's get started with the first section. What the iOS 14 looks like. So, what does iOS 14 look like? The iOS 14 changes are going to have a big impact on the e-commerce industry, as we know. And in this video, I'm going to give you a super simple overview of what is changing and what iOS 14 is. iOS is the operating system, as you probably already know, of Apple iPhones, and iOS 14 is a new version of this operating system which is being rolled out right now. Now, a lot of users already have this iOS 14 update. More will come, more will follow, and some will actually end up being rolled out, over the rest of 2021, and we'll actually see that impact slowly filter through into e-commerce, and I'll show you how just in a second. So usually things like updates like this have minor bug fixes and design improvements, functionality improvements, but this particular iOS 14 update has an important privacy update. Looking into it, the iOS 14 update will actually require all apps to actually show a pop-up just like this, which will then show on the screen when you open that app for the first time after you have updated the phone. After that, it won't show the pop-up again, so you have to kind of make the decision once and for all. I recently did a poll on LinkedIn to find out how many people would choose ask app not to track or allow app to track, and here are the results. And it's interesting that many people would actually decide the app should not be tracking their data. So 71% of users will decide they do not want Facebook or Instagram tracking their data. Well, this will massively impact you, and I'll explain how in the next section of this video. Why do you think Apple are actually rolling this update out? If one of Apple's biggest and most used apps like Facebook and Instagram don't like it, and also all the marketers in the world don't like this new update, what's the point? Well, this is what Tim Cook said. As you can see here, we believe users should have the choice over the data that is being collected about them and how it's used. And so the app tracking transparency, this isn't just an Apple update, this is a culture change. People are going to be deciding whether or not people should be tracking, just like the cookies that pop up in your browser, and just like Android are now planning to do this similar update, we'll be looking out for this all across the marketing world. Facebook actually responded to Tim Cook's tweet on this topic and actually said, "We support proactive privacy measures and data transparency, but we don't agree with Apple's policy changes." But are Facebook just pulling the wool over their users' eyes? Are they just claiming to support actual privacy, or do they really mean it? Let me know in the comments what you think. So how will iOS 14 actually affect advertising? Your ROI from Facebook and Instagram is likely to drop over the next few months. When iOS 14 is used by everyone, the main challenge will be how people are tracked. And this is because if the amount of data that Facebook and Instagram are collecting actually reduces, then the Facebook ads are not going to be shown to your target audience in the most proactive way. But then worse than that, a lot of irrelevant people will also see your ads because the targeting isn't so accurate, which actually wastes some of your money as well. This means your total cost per acquisition will actually go up and your ROI or ROAS will actually drop. Now, we've got to be careful about what we say here because in some cases we're going to see some changes where some people will see improvements. But overall, this is the average of what will happen based on providing you don't make any changes from now on. But it's not all bad. As I did on the poll on LinkedIn, actually 24% of users will still allow tracking, which is really interesting. I thought it would be a much lower percentage than that of people that will allow tracking from these Facebook apps. They're probably marketers that are connected to me who also like the fact that they should be tracking and getting accurate data. But aside from that, if a large percentage, like 25, 30% of people are actually wanting to track the data and don't mind that data being tracked, then perhaps there'll be enough of an audience with a big enough understanding of what that audience is to actually still be able to target effectively. The data that's actually being collected at the moment and what will actually affect it, how will it actually affect your ads account? Well, firstly, your audiences will change. This means your custom audiences, such as lookalike audiences, website remarketing, and all of those will probably decrease in size. This means that many of them, you won't be able to track the users on the website as you used to, coming from Facebook and similar advertising. But then also audiences created from their actions. So for example, within Facebook and Instagram, those will not be affected. So if, for example, they purchase on Instagram or anybody that engages on Facebook, you will be able to still remarket to those audiences. They won't be affected. It's just if they go from the Facebook app or the Instagram app across to your website. So, e-commerce, managing the iOS 14 updates. iOS 14 is happening. It's just too bad. We can't do anything about it. This is a general shift that's happening in marketing. It's going to be happening across cookies. It's going to be happening across browsers. It's going to be happening across other apps and Android as well. But there are a few things you should know about e-commerce advertising on Facebook and Instagram right now that iOS 14 is rolling out that you really need to take care of and look at and attend to right now. As mentioned before, the data from users will actually be restricted due to this new update, which makes the ROI drop and the acquisition cost actually decrease. But on top of that, the following changes are actually happening. Number one is reporting will be delayed by 2 to 3 days. This means that instead of instant reporting on the Facebook management, you'll actually have to wait for the data to come through. I guess it isn't too much of a big deal. I mean, it delays decisions on specific e-commerce campaigns and short-term promotions, but on longer-term campaigns, it doesn't make such a big difference. You just have to wait for that data. It's very similar to Google Search Console, where you have to wait for the data to come in from Google as to your organic clicks coming from Google. Number two, your conversion events will actually be attributed to the day they happen, not the day they clicked on the ad. So for example, this is rather annoying because, for example, if somebody clicks on the ad and then actually comes back 10 days later and purchases something, the actual attribution of the conversion will be dated by the date they actually did the conversion, not the ad that they saw the first time. So this is annoying because it doesn't really mean we know the day the ad started working. Number three, some of the results will actually be estimated. This came from Facebook, where they basically said it's a bit crazy because, well, they didn't say that. I think it's a bit crazy. But Facebook said basically they're tracking users and they're basically going to be estimating some of the data and putting that information, that estimated data, into your management account for Facebook ads, based on previous records. So I'm really hoping their statistical modeling will be really, really good and there won't be any glitches here, but you may just see some funny things. We're hoping the algorithm is going to be really good, but that is another change that's happening. Number four is the attribution modeling is actually going to be changed from 28 days to 7 days. That's the actual attribution window. So for example, if somebody sees an ad and then buys your product on your website 10 days later, you do not see that conversion attributed to that ad because it's gone past the 7-day window. Now currently your Facebook ads are actually on a 28-day window, which means within 28 days, if they purchase a product, you'll be able to see that purchase, that conversion came from an ad 28 days ago, and you'll also see the date at which the ad was posted and the date they actually saw the ad and clicked on the ad. But now you won't see the date, you'll just see the date of the conversion, And you also won't actually see that conversion at all if it happened within 28 days. So you'll have to see it, you only see it within 7 days. This change will literally mean if somebody sees the purchases within 8 days or more after, Facebook won't even pick that up. So that's going to be a big impact to your conversions if a lot of them are happening after 8 days. And I'll show you a little bit later in this video as to how you can actually track another section. So please pop it in the comments, any questions you have on this, and we'll try and get those answered for you. iOS 14, problem solved. Well, almost. We've got 3 things today we're going to discuss where we can minimize the impact of iOS 14, particularly for e-commerce. Number 1, you need to verify your domain. Number 2, measure your website events a bit better than you have been. And number 3, track your conversions over 7 days now so that you understand what impact will happen when that iOS switch happens to your users. Now, it may have already happened, you may have already seen that drop, in which case the third tip won't be so useful, but you'll still be able to see an insight as to how much impact that has going to have if it hasn't happened yet. So number 1, verify your domain. This is quite simple. You go across to your business manager, you navigate to your business settings on the left-hand menu, click brand safety and then domains, then select your domain from the available list and click add if it isn't already there. And you'll have to then follow the verification process to make sure that obviously Facebook knows it's your domain and you own it. The second one is a bit different. Measure your events a bit better. So use the Facebook conversion API if you can. This is connecting your website to Facebook, and obviously there's a variety of plugins to do this. But also you can better manage your events by turning on auto advanced matching. Now what this does is actually matches an audience from the people that fill in the information on your website. So for example, if somebody's going through the checkout on your website, picks out the information such as their name, email address, and a few other bits and pieces, and they'll then match that with people on Facebook to try and find an audience which is similar to that rather than picking it up directly. So if you click on the settings, you head across to Business Facebook Manager, then go to Events Manager, then go to your settings. You'll actually be able to toggle on the auto advanced matching settings there. Now the third thing you can actually do is to start tracking your conversions over 7 days. If you track over 7 days now, you'll then be able to see what difference that's going to make if they change the settings and they change the iOS 14, and then you'll only see 7 days anyway. So currently you're probably seeing 28 days, or you have done in the past. Switch it to 7 days to see your past data in a 7-day attribution window and see how it differs to your 28-day attribution, to then understand what impact it's going to have when this rolls out, or if it hasn't already rolled out, if that makes sense. So to do this, you head over to your business manager and you go to the campaigns view, or whichever view you want to do, and then you go across to your, obviously the columns, and manage the columns in that report, and then you add in your 7-day attribution window as a column into your ads manager, so you can actually see that, and then you can compare the two. Think of these as solutions to solving this specific iOS 14 problem, or trying to minimize the impact, rather than solving the real problem. Because what you'll realize here is a lot more channels are going to be doing this. Android's going to roll it out, the web users and website browsers are going to be starting to use that, and they're going to be reducing like the cookies and different things and tracking on there. So obviously think about, this is going to happen to all channels. Is there a better way to get traffic to your website which is going to be hyper targeted and also get the right people so they make purchases online? Is it going to be a good ROI decision basically? There is actually a good channel I'd like to suggest, and that is what we call SEO. That is a search engine optimization. It's a very reliable channel which consistently grows if it's done right. And what you do is you actually work on the website to add content and information to the website so that Google sees your website as more authoritative and more informational than other competitor websites. And then they obviously redirect people to you. So your listing on Google goes right up the top, and then you get people coming to your website instead of your competitor websites, and then obviously you get purchases from that. Now many people think about that as a very non-ROI driven, but we can actually track the ROI. If you're interested in more how it works, pop your name in the comments below and we'll actually send some information over how you can basically figure out how to get a bit of this SEO going and actually get some traction on it, so you don't have to spend so much on this bit of an unreliable ads platform. Facebook, I know it has been reliable in terms of ROI and tracking, but that's soon going to change, and there are always going to be changes happening within the ads world, which is difficult to manage. Thank you very much. This is Lewis Francis from Uniquely. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.